Hello, I am Melissa Ainslie. I want to welcome you to 11 Intuitions. I am a spirit medium and a mentor, and this podcast is about the moments and the lessons and stories that shaped my path. And they're beautiful ones. They're also ones that scared me to my core. In this first episode, I'm going to take you back to where it all began, the earliest sparks of my sensitivity and the pivotal moments that I didn't understand at the time. But now I see where they were shaping me for the work I do today. Story 1, the nightlight. I remember I always had to sleep with a nightlight, and it wasn't always about being afraid of the dark. I felt like it was protecting me from something, and I couldn't name it. Now I know it was likely my sensitivity to spirit. I remember early in my childhood that I was always afraid of my closet. I didn't quite know what that was. And in the dark, it always scared me. Even with the nightlight, it always scared me. And I knew that there were things in my closet. I knew that there were things watching me. So I remember always having to have a nightlight on. I remember having to call my dad in to protect me. I always felt like there was something under my bed. I think that's why I always had things under my bed. Whenever I was told to clean my room, I would put things under my bed so things couldn't hide under there. But I always knew that there was things in there watching me from my closet. It was hard for me to fall asleep. It really didn't help that my bedroom was right adjacent to the family living room, and my parents loved to watch TV loud. I always hated the night when it was X-Files night or Unsolved Mysteries. The music always scared me to death. You know, looking back now, it was really just the beginning of what I now know that, it was spirit. But I didn't realize that at the time. I was too young. Let's go to what is another story that was pivotal in my life. I remember going to my Uncle Ron and Aunt Kathy's house. We always went over there, and I would be playing with my cousins, Don and Brooke. I remember they said, "Hey, let's go look in the attic." So, you know how in homes they have stairs that you can go up into an attic. And I remember them opening up in a closet. If I remember right, they opened up the door up in the ceiling. I remember they told me to go first. What would you think you normally would see? You would think that it would be, just brown wood and old boxes. I was excited. You're a little kid. You would think that. But that's not what I saw. I saw clouds. I saw what you would envision heaven to look like. It scared me to death. I screamed. And I remember calling again for my dad. Scream, scream, scream. It was a very overwhelming feeling. And I remember they came and they went up and looked. He's like, "There's nothing like what you described there." He's like, "Here, come up here and look." I looked, and it was exactly what you would think an attic would look like. To this day, I can still remember what I saw. And I remember messaging my cousin maybe a year ago, telling her about this. And she doesn't remember that episode, but I do. That was one of the pivotal things that I remember. Was this preparing me for my gift? I have no idea. I would very much like to hear from other listeners. Have you had an experience like that when you were younger? You can't explain it. You remember it vividly, but no one knew what you were talking about. Let's go to get another experience. This is when I was in high school. I get to wear that badge of honor proudly. 12 years of Catholic school. Here I am in probably my junior year of Catholic high school. They bring the Mother Mary Fatima statue to school, and we didn't have a very big school. Graduated in a class with 62 seniors, and were brought into the chapel. We didn't have a big school at that time. It's still not big. The chapel was located behind the gymnasium. I remember they piled all of us in there, and I just had this overwhelming feeling, this just beautiful, loving, caring feeling, but I could feel this presence. It made me want to cry. I kept asking people, "Do you feel that? Do you feel that?" And I kept looking around like, "Do you feel that?" And I remember people looking at me like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? But I could feel this presence. I had no idea what it was. I remember crying. Nobody knew what I was talking about. I literally could, like, it was like if you would watch a movie and like you could see the fog, like in movies like Fog, I could feel like that type of a thing. Like if you could imagine feeling, I could feel that. It was all over that room. It was just beautiful. When it was over, I called my dad. I said, Dad, look, you're Catholic. You have to feel this too. He came. He couldn't feel it either. Never understood it. It wasn't until one night I couldn't sleep. It was several years ago. The Mother Fatima statue came to Austin, Texas. And it just so happened we were driving to San Antonio that day. We were going to go right by it. I asked my husband, can we please stop and go? And I went into the church. There again, there's that feeling. I now know that is what elevated spirits feel like. They're angels, saints, that kind of thing. And they bring you right to feeling like you want to cry. And why is that? Because that's what heaven feels like. It's just such this beautiful feeling. But I felt that when I was in high school. I didn't know what it was. And no one else felt that. I had no one to talk to. I didn't know. That was a very pivotal thing. Probably about a year or two later, I'm driving. It's late at night, probably 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving home, about a block away from home, and I'm at a stoplight. It's red. I'm just sitting there. It's like taking forever to turn green. All of a sudden I hear in my head, don't go. I was like, what? What was that? The light turns green and I'm like, okay, don't go. All of a sudden, right in front of me, a semi comes barreling down the road. That semi was not there. It was not there. But had I gone, I would have been killed. Can't explain it, but I am glad I listened to it. I could tell you, I've probably had at least 50 times since then where Spirit has told me things like that, and I've listened. There have been times, my husband can attest to this. This is how he knew that I had something before I even came out and knew I was a medium. He knows to listen because I'm like, we can't go somewhere. There'd be a crash on the road. And that's how he knew to start listening to me. Here's where things got scary for me. When I was about 18 or 19, I went to a friend's house. They were having a party, and they're like, hey, why don't we go take a walk? And everybody, it was late at night, they were taking a walk. The farther we went, I just had this overwhelming feeling of fear, just this grief, and I could hear screaming in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? I felt this, do not walk any further. Just don't go any further. I just stopped. And they're like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I can't walk any further. What is going on? Where is this? What's going further? What's going on? And they're like, the old TB hospital. This is grew up in Lima, Ohio. A very famous TB hospital is there. And it's also known to be very haunted also. I was like, no, I'm not going any further. I'm not going further. I turned around, went back. For years, I'm not kidding you, for years, that place haunted me. That feeling haunted me. I had flashbacks of that night. I had no idea what was going on. I would hear screams. I would be transplanted back to that place. I didn't know what that place looked like. I didn't know the internet back then. I'm 51 years old. It was 93. I didn't have pictures, but I could see the place. I could see people in it. I could feel the fear. I could feel all of that. I would have flashbacks. I had no idea that my sensitivity at that time, that I had a gift, was locking into the emotional imprint of this place. I had no one to talk to. I mean, at 18, who do you talk to? Who do you tell? You literally think you're going crazy. It scared me terribly. It followed me to Texas. It literally followed me to Texas because we had moved when I was about 23. I couldn't get rid of it. Honestly, I don't know what caused it to go away, but it finally just went away. Here's the worst one. In my late 20s, finally had met my husband, got married. I was able to travel for work. We went to California. Always wanted to see the Queen Mary. I'm sure you can all see what's coming here. Didn't know I had an ability. Didn't know that. We went to go visit the Queen Mary. So excited. You know, this is a ship with decades and decades of a layered history. deaths, wartime service, emotional imprints. I'm sure you all are getting excited to hear this story. We go start visiting it. We're at the top of the tour. I was very big into Thomas Kincaid at that time. His paintings loved him. Found a painting, was so excited. Recently I just found that painting. I thought, I'm wondering if this has something to do with it. I threw that painting away just recently. Because it may have brought some things home. And it's been, I'm 51 now, and I was in my 20s. It's been 25 years now. Yeah, that painting's gone now. We're up looking at the pool. The pool is, there's no water in the pool. That room creeped me out big time. We're in the big ballroom. That room was just really creepy to me. It had a feeling. My husband wasn't feeling any of this. I looked down the long corridors where there's rooms. I'm like, gosh, what is this heavy feeling? It's just heavy. I just had a hard time just feeling like I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm overweight. Maybe we're walking too much, It wasn't until we were getting lower. There was this room with a bunch of ropes. I was like, okay, this is just really weird. Then we get down to the engine room. I'm like, I don't like this room. I don't like this room. Can we just keep going? He's like, yeah, let's keep going. Then my nightmare. This is where the nightmare began. We get down to the propeller room. This is going to be hard to tell. I still have a really hard time telling this story, but I know I'm safe. I know I'm okay. We get to the propeller room and I see the propeller. I'm like, crap, this is just crazy. It takes me back to when I would go to the YWCA in Lima, Ohio. I remember I would be swimming. We swam every single day. I remember being in the water. I don't even know if this was real or not. Even thinking back to it now, can you hear that? Or was that, I'm really going to have to look into it. But I remember one of the things I was fascinated with doing was I would get into the deep end. I would get into the ladder. I would hold my breath. I would go down, all the way down to the bottom. Then I'd go all the way back up. But I could hear that sound, like the ding, 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 ding. But can you hear that? Can you hear that in the water, in a swimming pool? I don't know. But every time I tell the story, it always brings me back to the Y. And that place was haunted too. That place was haunted. Going to the Queen Mary, seeing the swimming pool, doing that stuff in the swimming pool. I always had a fear of drowning in that swimming pool. It just all brings it back. Anyway, the propeller room, seeing that propeller. Then they had this mannequin, this dummy in a dive suit. There was a light shining on this dummy. I saw that. It just freaked me out. I told my husband, I'm like, we have got to get out of here. It just was fear, absolute fear. I felt like I had been there before, like I had been killed there before. Like, just seriously, I've got to stop talking about this. But anyway, this was a past life. I seen it, lived it, had to get out of there. We get out of there. I feel so much better. I'm literally just feeling this, I can feel it come back again. Anyway, just awful. I'm telling my husband, we really need to leave. I cannot handle this. I just cannot handle this. And we finish the tour. We go to the submarine. I feel better. I'm sure the submarine was haunted too. But anyway, I start having flashbacks. I just start having flashbacks of that room, the propeller, of the mannequin. And I couldn't sleep. We come back to the house, my house. Then it starts again. What is that? Things in my closet. Here I am. I'm 25, 26, 27. How are there things in my closet again? I'm a little kid again. The lights start having to go back on. I can't get out of my bed and walk past my closet. I'm a grown woman. And this goes on for a few weeks. I'm not sleeping. I'm literally sitting there in the fetal position at night. I can't sleep. I'm scared to death. I'm crying. Now I realize that spirits have followed me home. They're in my closet. I can tell you that now at 51, but back then I didn't know what was going on. The flashbacks, it's like PTSD. They were in a loop. They would not stop. And it was like I was reliving it over and over again. My brain wouldn't stop replaying them. The fear was real. I mean, if I'm 51 right now, I know I keep telling you that, but I'm just letting you know that if right now, this was happening when I was 25, telling the story, I'm having a hard time telling it. Can you imagine what it was when it was then? I was having a hard time reliving it. The fear is as real as it's happening in that moment. It is like PTSD. My fear of ghosts from when I was little are in full force. I needed help. I didn't know what I needed. I thought I was going crazy. My gosh, I can't even believe I'm just going to start crying right now. But I'm letting you know that if you are dealing with that or have dealt with that you're not alone. This ability, it can be scary, especially when you don't know you have it. And once you get a grasp of it, going back to when you didn't know going back to when you didn't feel safe is a real thing. I'm just here to let you know that you're okay. You're safe. There is a way out. But at that time, I had to go get help. I am so glad that I did. What did that help look like? At that time, I worked in a hospital. You were able to call in and talk to someone. They made me an appointment right away. I went in for the first appointment. I'm not joking with you. Within 5 minutes, she said, I need to get you in with the psychiatrist. I saw a psychiatrist that day. I got on medication that day. It was that serious. I'm glad I got on medication immediately. It stopped the loop. I did not find out about my ability until 8 years ago. Can you imagine not having help until you were much, much older? It stopped that loop. I'm still on medication. I needed it. I have a very long history of family mental illness due to generational trauma. I'm not embarrassed about saying that I'm on medication, but I had to be on something because it helped stop it. Was I still afraid in my closet? Yes, I still was. Was I able to sense things still? Yes, I was, but it wasn't to the point where I was not able to function anymore. That's what helped. Was amazing for me. People are like, being a medium is wonderful. It's great. Yes, it is. But there are downsides to it, especially when you have no clue that you have this gift, that you are sensitive. And, I'm here. I'm as real as you can be. I, tell you like it is. I'm not afraid of giving you the downsides of it. If you ever go to a haunted location, you come back have these things. I just want to let you know that you are sensitive. You probably have an ability. It doesn't mean you need to be medicated for it. It means that you need to learn how to open up, to learn how to communicate with spirit. I'm just giving you what my story was. Mine was worst case scenario, I think. Well, maybe not, but for me it was. But I didn't get my gift for many, many years later. The way that I was supposed to get my gift it wasn't until my mom died. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed if you have to get medicated. It's commonplace now. But it gave me my life back. It shows me just, how much mental health care can be just as much of a part of your spiritual care. Any cleansing or prayers too. I just want to share that too. The teachable moment for listeners is, haunted places don't just affect people who are sensitive. They can really, really hit anyone. If you don't understand what's happening, it can be an imprint. It can be overwhelming, disruptive. You might start having vivid replays, panics, sleep trouble, think something is wrong with you. But the truth is your brain and your nervous system are trying to process an intense, energetic encounter. And without tools to release it, the loop can take over. And sometimes you need spiritual tools, and sometimes you need medical help. And sometimes it's both. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people watch the ghost shows. They're like, oh, that is so cool. That's so neat. That's so great. But, you have to be very careful going into places like that. Especially for people who don't realize they have a gift. It's very important to learn how to ground and protect yourself. And grounding and protecting doesn't mean that you won't be able to communicate. It just means that you won't take on what is there. You won't take back what is there. And it's just important to have spiritual hygiene, which means grounding and protecting. And, teenagers going into places like this that don't understand it can very much come back and have mental health crises, just like I did. Won't understand it, can start seeing things, thinking that they have schizophrenia or something like that. It's very real. It's just important to understand what you're getting yourself into. I just want to close up and tell you what's coming for this podcast. These experiences shaped how I see sensitivity, and being intuitive doesn't make you immune to trauma at all. It can make you more vulnerable, and it's okay to use every tool you need to heal. So next time I will share how I became a medium. It's really how one life-changing loss became the moment my gifts fully awakened. And I teased that earlier. It was losing my mom, and why death can sometimes be the greatest catalyst for life. This podcast is called 11 Intuitions. You're going to find out what it is 11 Intuitions. What does that mean? And what it is that I do. I do this work full time now. It wasn't like that. I did work in a hospital for 23 years. I'm going to explain how I went from doing that life to now doing this work. It was quite a bumpy road, but now I teach other mediums how to do this work. It's such a fulfilling job. I'd like for you to subscribe and share this podcast because it's very meaningful work. And there are people awakening to their gifts every single day. And we're going to teach a lot during this podcast. We're going to learn a lot. Going to be very open, very vulnerable. I hope you have enjoyed this. I look forward to many, many, many episodes. Hope you have a great day.